Kind of negative belief systems are behind the emotions of suffering, longing, and feelings of loss involved with unrequited love? What can one do in order to transform so that there's only love left? And what if one is emotionally detached, but the other person is in love and is suffering because of it? What can you do in order to alleviate suffering?
First and foremost, in any form of relationship, make absolutely no assumption about what the relationship is about. You don't know what it's about. No matter how strong it feels, no matter how strong the attraction, that doesn't tell you what the relationship is in your life for, because it can still serve many different purposes, even if you are absolutely attracted, magnetically attracted to someone, doesn't mean that it is a particular kind of societal assumption of what that relationship should look like in terms of how it plays out physiologically. So the idea is to drop all your assumptions and let the relationship show you what it is. And the idea of pain and suffering in any love relationship, again, may have to do with beliefs in lack of worthiness, or simply definitions you have about what those connections mean that actually are not real in that sense, that are not relevant for what the relationship actually is. So we would simply always encourage you to really clarify what definitions you have about what you think any relationship is supposed to be, because they're all basically for the purpose of reflecting to you what you need to know to be more in love with yourself and all that is, which will then give you more reflections of connection to other people as well in a more positive sense. But all suffering and all pain is generally the result of the resistance to your true self, your natural self, and the imposition of belief systems and definitions that are out of alignment with who you truly are.
Okay. How can I remain as my true, unconditional, loving self when my egoic self pops up and is very convincing as real? When I'm in a flow state, I can't see how I could forget my ego, and yet it comes and goes just like everything else somehow.
What you're referring to is the negative ego. You will never lose the ego as long as you're physical, because the ego is the physical personality that allows you to have a physical experience. So it's not about losing the ego, it's about defining yourself as in alignment with it and letting it do its job, which is just to focus you on having an experience in physical reality terms. But the idea of making it in control, having it be a controlling factor, like you have to know what's going to happen, you have to know what kind of outcome is going to happen for you to feel like you're in control, and so on and so forth, is not the focus that it was designed to have. Its only focus as a typical natural ego structure, a physical personality structure, is to give you an experience of physical reality. So the idea is to go with your flow, knowing that the ego, being allowed to do the job it was designed to do, will simply give you the opportunity to experience what's happening, but the ego is not designed to know what's going to happen. That's the purview, shall we say, of the higher mind.
So interesting. I act on my passions every moment I can, but lately I've noticed that I have expectations. How can I help myself to not have expectations? And what negative beliefs would I be holding on to by having expectations?
Expectations may be too general of a term because you can always expect something is going to happen. There's always a consequence to an action or a choice. What we are refining that definition to be is not having insistences or assumptions, not just general expectations. The idea of insistence means, again, you do not trust the way your life unfolds and what it brings you as being the thing you actually need, and think from the negative ego that you know best what the outcome should actually look like, when in fact it may not need to look like that at all for you to be truly served. So it's about dropping the assumptions as to what's supposed to happen, insistences on what you think should happen, and simply expect that what needs to happen will happen, and then how you respond to it will be exactly the measure of how much you have let go of any insistence on the outcome.
So, how will I know if I'm actually following my excitement or I'm just avoiding fears?
Well, again, you have to be honest in your self examination. If it comes right down to it, pretty much everyone knows the difference between excitement and anxiety. You simply have to be honest about why you would be afraid of something, why you might be anxious about something, by letting yourself feel that feeling and not dismissing it, not disguising it, not dampening it. If you are anxious, let yourself feel it so that it's clear that you're coming from a fear based belief. And then you have something to work with. So, honesty and willingness to experience the emotions as they come up and own them, because if you don't own them, you can't change them. Acknowledge them for what they are clearly, without fear, and then you will be able to examine and discern the difference between true excitement and anxiety very easily. You just have to be honest within yourself about what it is you're experiencing and examine whether or not you are running from something or running to something.
Couldn't like your negative ego delude you into thinking that what is actually your passion is not and make you think you're running from fear? Based on whether you're more like a self-critical person that would lean towards finding fault with yourself, with the way that you're following your passion. You don't understand what I'm saying?
Yes, but again, the idea is that's relatively temporary if you are open and willing to have an honest discussion with yourself about what it is you're actually experiencing. Always take a moment to stop. You don't have to rush headlong forward in anything. You can take a moment and examine your choices to find out whether that choice is based on a positive or a negative belief. Take that time. That's what that time is for. You don't have to rush ahead. So you will have the discernment if you understand that you're always willing to be open and honest with yourself and take the time to examine why you are choosing what you're choosing. That's the key. Why am I choosing this?
How can I find out my belief system behind a situation? I understand honesty is very important, and I'm completely honest and willing to explore myself. But I always go into some loop when finding answers, and I don't know how to break the loop. How can I break that loop of trying to find out what is my hidden belief system?
Explore the loop itself. In other words, the loop itself is obviously a fear based belief system perpetuating itself and preventing you from moving forward. Therefore, you must be getting something out of it. The belief system within you must, in a sense, be convincing you that you're getting something out of looping. So ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I stop looping? What am I getting out of looping? It's obviously a procrastination mechanism. So, again, it still takes honest self examination, but the subject of the examination is the concept of the loop itself. It doesn't happen automatically. You have been convinced by some fear based belief system that you should loop. It's not out of your control. It may feel like it, but it's not. It's a choice you're making to continue looping because you're afraid that if you stop looping, something worse will happen. So take that stance and explore what you believe might be worse if in fact you didn't loop at all.
Is that essentially the same thing as like ruminating, where something happens, a person gets upset, and they just keep replaying it over and over and over in
Yes,
their mind?
yes. It's preventing them from moving forward because they have chosen to be in a loop of rumination. That should be your first clue that you're afraid that something worse will happen if you stopped doing that. It doesn't mean something will happen, it just means you're afraid that it will.
Okay. Um, how do I know the difference between a limiting belief system that is using my emotions and thoughts versus my actual thoughts and emotions that come through my heart?
Again, we have answered this.
Okay.
You have simple, self honest examination. And when you are willing to be open to that and truly clear and transparent within yourself, it's very easy to tell the difference between why you choose to do something and whether that is from fear and anxiety or from true excitement. Ask yourself, why am I choosing this? Why? How does this experience, even the negative one, serve me? Do I believe it safeguards me from something worse? You have to ask these questions of yourself, and you have to answer them honestly.
So another question is, real anger is around 15 seconds, right? And then after that, it turns into judgment, basically.
Yes.
So how about other emotions like sorrow, sadness, shame, being hurt, and all that when you're continuing to experience that beyond, let's say, 15 seconds?
All the same. It's all the same mechanism. And perhaps the idea, again, is better expressed as alignment. So guilt, shame, these things, again, are simply emotional components that in the natural state are simply matters of recognizing the difference between true alignment and how far out of alignment you may be based on the choices you made. It only takes about 15 seconds to have that sensation course through you and recognize that what that is a measurement of the difference between alignment and misalignment. That's all that sensation is. You're out of alignment. Therefore, if it lingers beyond the 15-second mark, you have already added self-judgment to it, gone into beliefs of lack of self-worth, lack of capability, so on and so forth. All of those experiences are simply a rush of energy that gives you the difference between alignment and misalignment so that you can choose to realign yourself or you can choose to wallow in self-judgment.
So actually what you just pointed out is that there's almost like a process of going into a downward spiral. It's like each step, once you buy into a negative belief at one level, then it takes you down to yet another level.
Yes, it's like an elevator. You've pressed the down button instead of pressing the up button.
But in terms of something like grieving, that would be a little different in terms of not.
It's a little different, but not much. It's still utilizing a similar mechanism because, as I said, the only reason you really grieve is that you have a definition that you've lost something, that it's truly been separated from you, and that there's no connection remaining. If you change that definition, you would experience something quite different. So it may be slightly different as an expression, but it still utilizes the same mechanism. The definitions are creating a misalignment with what is true.
And so in the future, when we have stronger connection to those that have passed over, will we be able to just talk to them in our heads as if they're standing there, or will it be something where we do it through a device?
It can be any number of mechanisms. Ultimately, it can simply be you're talking to them because you can see and hear them, because you're matching a frequency that they exist on in their particular realm.
So then the only other barrier perhaps would be the idea that you cannot physically touch the person, or you don't.
Even that is not necessarily true. As we exist in our civilization as what we are terming quasi-physical beings, means we have traits of both physical and non-physical reality. Spirits can touch us and we can touch them.
Wow.
It's a matter of realigning your frequency.
So you mean we could actually get to the point where, for example, the person who lost their daughter would actually be able to feel that they're in a one-on-one communication, talking and being able to hug, or
Yes, if you look at your literature about the idea of what you call ghosts, you will find that there are many references to beings that seem so solid people on your planet don't even know they're looking at a spirit. So it depends on the reasons for that, and we're not going to go into that at the moment. But clearly, in your literature and in your accounting of such meetings, you do have a listing of experiences where people couldn't even tell that they were speaking to a ghost.
and that would just change our whole process of once we get to that point, grieving will be unnecessary, I
Yes,
suppose.
but of course, it's really backwards. Once you change to that point, grieving will be unnecessary.
I see. Um, According to our scientists, the Earth's core is iron nickel sphere. So does that mean that Earthlings have an iron heart? And in your opinion, what is the strangest material you've discovered at the core of a planet in our physical universe, and what did it mean for the life forms there?
The idea, of course, is that you do have iron in your blood and your blood passes through your heart. In that sense, you could say, yes, you have an iron heart, energetically speaking. The most interesting substance we have found at the core of a physical planet is neutronium. The idea of everything being packed so tightly that it becomes neutral without a positive or a negative charge. The life forms that are connected to that particular world are unlike anything that you might understand and exist on a level of quantum fluctuations.
Certainly is an interesting universe, isn't it?
Yes.
And you would know because you've seen a lot more of it than perhaps we have.
I've seen a little more than you have, but I have seen nothing but a fraction of what exists.
Uh, and is Earth just an amazingly unique planet in terms of all the animals and life that's here? I mean, how do you all view that?
Everything is unique.
Yes.
You are differently unique, yes, than any other world. There are worlds that are somewhat similar to yours. You are similar to them. But again, not identical. Unless you're looking at the idea of parallel realities in which another Earth may be so similar that you can't tell the difference. It might be only different literally by one subatomic particle. Still a different universe. So there can be those that look almost identical where you cannot tell the difference. And there are those that are so radically different you wouldn't even know that it's still considered to be Earth.
You've said on several occasions that everything is made out of love. If that's true, does that mean that even the greatest criminals and sadists are made out of love? And how can love produce such hatred, cruelty, and oppression? Please
Because
explain how
love,
it.
true love, is unconditional, remember? That is the essential vibration of existence. You simply translate that as unconditional love in your language. But the key word is unconditional. Therefore, it's simply a matter of everything being made out of that vibration, harmonizing with that vibration, but because you are experiencing yourself as an individuated consciousness in physical reality that can be built upon filters and belief systems, you don't necessarily experience it that way because you don't necessarily know how to align with it because you haven't been taught how to do so. So even the idea of someone you would consider to be a criminal may be acting, quote unquote, out of love in their true intention, but they may have no way of understanding how to actually express that in an aligned and harmonious way because they don't have the tools. They haven't been taught how to do that. So their actions, to the best of their ability, may be being done out of a distorted sense of love or self-love. But again, it's not necessarily a holistic expression, a unifying and harmonizing expression of the idea of the basic, fundamental, unconditional vibration of existence itself. Because you have the freedom to choose, because things are unconditional, how to express the idea of the love of which you're made, of the vibrational existence of which you are made.
And the idea of bringing heaven to earth. Can you share some more with us about how that relates to the heart and
Well, again,
the experience we're having here?
yes, when you clear out the negative vibrations, the definitions in your belief systems that are not relevant for you as a being in your true sense, then the vibration, message, communication from the higher mind will go to the heart as it does and be reflected to a physical mind that is now clear and transparent and free of any distortions in its belief system. And by doing that, you radiate then to all parts of your body and outward through your electromagnetic aura that vibration of purity and alignment and clarity that comes more directly from the higher mind to the heart to now a physical mind that is a transmitter in a pure sense. Thus then that can, by example, allow others to sense that vibration and if they so choose, start to match that vibration, because now they're being given an opportunity to do so. And that can help alleviate the idea of any distortions by at least providing the option of a clear vibration to others, in much the same way that the unconditional love of our civilization is offered to you, but you still have to be the ones to agree to harmonize and match that frequency. Thus, our vibration and our sharing is unconditional. It's up to you to match it. And we would not necessarily have been giving information to you for the last 38 of your years had not some of you at least decided to match it and be living examples of that frequency. That doesn't mean that you have to exactly be like us or do exactly as we do. It simply means that you were willing to let go of all those things that aren't truly you, that are your challenges, your themes of exploration in this particular life, to get to know yourself from a new point of view, and have let go of the need now to do that, because you are now more willing to be your true self just on its own merit. And thus then you have elevated the frequency of your entire world and given many people more of an opportunity, as you align with any source of unconditional love, to allow themselves to align with those sources as well, whatever they may be, whatever works for them, and increase the likelihood and the probability of more people choosing to navigate themselves through different parallel versions of Earth over and over to ones that are more and more reflective, like a mirror, of the vibrational choices you have made to be in harmony and in alignment with the unconditional love of all that is.